If you're into guitars, metal riffage, mixing, and everything in between, hit subscribe and follow along.
Jeez. It's kind of gross to think that dust is made primarily up of our dead skin cells. So my recording space is covered in my dead skin. Pretty gross. Hi guys, how's it going? Today we are going to talk about mixing guitars. Now I know I've gone over that before, but we're going to kind of do a refresher of how I mix guitars. We do speak a lot about guitar tone and bass and stuff like that and creating guitar tones, but let's talk about what I do with my guitars in a mix. We are going to talk about three things, or kind of hit on three. We are going to hit on three. We are going to hit on three main topics. Number one, we're going to quickly go over what I do with my master bus or my two bus or my stereo bus, whatever you want to call it. I have processing that I put on every single time I'm mixing a track, so we'll go over that. Number two, we're going to go over my guitar track processing. What am I doing to each rhythm guitar track? We're also going to touch on what I do with my guitar track bus or my rhythm bus. So I kind of bus my rhythm tracks into one bus, and I do a little bit of processing on that. And then number three, we're going to kind of touch on what I do with my bass tone, because bass has a lot to do with my guitar tone and it has a lot to do with the overall mix. So that's what we're going to do. Let's dive in. I need these. So before we begin, let's give the track a listen. Okay, all right, so you kind of get an idea of what's happening. Now for this particular song, I primarily double track this. So I got a left and a right rhythm guitar. I do have some layering going on. I have some melodies and harmonies going on, but for the most part throughout the whole song, it's just two tracks of guitars. So let's just listen to those. All right, so like I said, let's go over what I'm doing on my master bus, my two bus. So we will bring that up. All right, and I'm not going to go into these settings into great detail. I know I have a video on what I do with my two bus, my master bus. It's basically, I stole the top-down mixing approach from Nolly. You guys know Nolly. He's one of the best producers of our era. He's responsible for making the last several Periphery albums sound as good as they do. So in my quest for knowledge and learning, I watched his masterclass and other classes where he goes through his top-down mixing, and I took it. I used it. I do tweak it depending on what I'm mixing, depending on whether or not the song is actually a metal song. I pretty much do this on every one of my metal tracks. We have the Virtual Mix Rack by Slate to begin with. I have the FGN, which is a Neve emulation, the Custom Series EQ, and then the trimmer to bring down my overall gain. I'm not going to go over the settings too much. Then I'm running into the Slate Digital FG Gray compressor. Then I'm running that into tape emulation, the virtual tape machine from Slate. I have FabFilter Pro Q3, and then I have 2 notches kind of taking out those high, around 4K. What do we got going on here? I lied. This is, I'm a liar. This is, I'm notching at 2257 and 2672. I must have heard something poking through, and that's what I ended up doing. And then I have this Elosis Air EQ, just to add, I'm taking out a little bit of mud, rolling off some of the lows, and adding a little bit of sparkle. And then I'm running into the FabFilter Pro L2 to bring up the overall volume as my limiter. I mix into that. When I'm tracking, I don't have that stuff on, but as I get closer to a complete song and I start mixing, that's what I do. So we can turn that off and hear how the guitars sound. It's going to sound... Here, let's turn off all my processing for my guitars. Let me see if this is too loud with the limiter. Yeah. So those are my raw Helix tones, and I'll turn on my mix bus processing. Now, I'm sure people are going to bitch and complain about how hyped the high end is, and you're listening to isolated guitars in the context of the mix, to my ears, for my mixes, for how I like my songs to sound, sounds good. Now, I got my mix bus processing going. I also do some stuff to my guitar tracks. So let's listen to what I do. We'll take my left channel, we'll center it, and now let's listen to it raw. Now the first thing I do is I add the FabFilter Pro Q3. Let's turn that on. Cutting all that junk out. Just rumble, useless rumble. Just rumble, useless rumble. So this is with the EQ. Then I'm going into the Pro MB, which is a multi-bus, it's a multi-band compressor. And I am doing that old Andy Sneap trick of reining in my woofy low end of the guitar, primarily the palm mutes. So let's see what that's doing. Turn it on. You hear it's getting that low. It's kind of taming that. It's not getting rid of it. It's taming it. It's bringing it down. I have a quick attack and a quick release. It's almost a full attack, but it's the fastest release. And what am I got? My ratio is at 10. Now it's subtle. You're not going to be able to hear a ton of difference, but I'll turn it on and off. Now I know a lot of you are thinking like, man, that sounds really ballsy and beefy and thick without it, and it kind of loses a little bit of that energy, but you don't want all that woofy energy in your mix. So you got to tame it. It's about the final mix. It's about the final product. And then next I'm running into the virtual mix rack, and I'm doing something that I've primarily been doing in Helix, but I still find myself tweaking this a little bit. I am adding a little bit of 8K, about 1.5 dB of 8K. And then at 2K, I'm boosting about 1 dB. It's just something I kind of came across. I didn't steal that from anybody as far as I can remember. I just like that high end to be kind of hyped on my guitars. And this just helps. So let's listen to that with it off, and then I'll turn it on. So it's kind of bringing back in a little bit of that energy that I lost when I rolled off a lot of that high-end fizz. Just kind of like bringing some of it back, but we're not getting crazy. And that is it's what I have on my rhythm guitar tracks. I have one on the left, I have it on the right, I have the same exact thing. So let's put this back to the left. And then let's listen to it again with the mix bus processing and my guitar processing. Now I have that running into a guitar bus, and then for this one, I'm using this S1 Imager by Waves. It's basically stereo widener, and I'm widening it. I'm spreading the stereo. I'm widening it. We're doing a little bit of widening, just a little bit. It's at 1.18. I believe 1 is where it started. So let's see what that's doing. Start with it off, and then I'll turn it on. It's going to be subtle. Sorry, I accidentally hit undo in the left channel panned center. So we got the panning straightened out. Now let's listen to what this S1 Imager is doing. Just super subtle. I felt like at the time and in the context of a full mix, it helped. Now let's listen to the bass. Let's see what's going on with the bass. That bass sounds so sick. Doing a little bit of processing, and by a little bit, I mean a lot. So let's turn it all off. Let me get rid of this multi-band compressor. I'm not using it. So we'll turn everything off. That's my raw Helix bass tone. Now we have the virtual mix rack, and I'm running that into that Revival plugin. It just adds a lot of nice high-end shimmer. I'm running it into the FG Stress, which is a compressor, and then the Air EQ, I'm boosting a little bit more high-end. Lots of high-end. So let's listen to that before, and then I'll add it in. Pretty big difference. The next thing I'm running into is Pro Q3, and we got a pretty crazy funky thing happening here. This looks pretty extreme, but let's see what it's doing. So basically I'm rolling off a bunch of low end, cutting some wonky mids. I'm notching a couple annoying frequencies and rolling off some of that high end because it gets a little harsh. I mean, I'm adding a lot of high end. I got to rein it in. So let's listen to what that's doing. I'll start it and then I'll add it in. You see that roll off is just getting rid of some of that super low subharmonics that most people aren't going to be able to hear. Farty. That's where the guitars pretty much are. Some whistly frequencies. So if I turn off these whistly frequencies, these notches, you can hear that they really poke out. Just cleans it up so nicely. And let's listen to what that high cut is doing. It's just junk. There's not a huge difference. You can't, like, it's not cutting a ton, but in the context of a mix, that's going to fuck with, potential vocals. That's going to mess with cymbals and other high-end frequency occupied things. So that's the bass. Now let's listen to the guitar with the bass. Boom. So let's listen to a different section. Now again, like I said, I primarily just have a left and a right channel for my rhythm tones, and then I do have some layering happening. So this is the rhythm. That's an ugly cut and paste job right there. As I get closer to the final product, I will record that whole chunk in one bigger chunk, but anyway. So that's the rhythm, and then I have some kind of like melody, kind of like, well, let's listen. It's just adding a little movement, adding a little melody, and what I'm doing here is I'm really kind of just making it sound very, what's the word? Lo-fi. So let's solo this, bring it to the center. This is what it's doing. So basically I took my rhythm channel processing and really kind of narrowed down the high and the low cut. I brought it in. I mean, I'm cutting all the way up to 216 hertz and coming down to 7,000K. 7,000K to 7K. 7511. And that gives us this lo-fi sound. Pretty dope. Whoa. And then I have this kind of real creepy, ambient, bendy thingy happening. It's a pretty lush Helix tone. I think I took my lead tone and really just jacked up the delay mix and jacked up the reverb mix. By jacked up, I mean turned up a lot. And then, let's see. And then, yeah, I mean, that's just straight Helix tone right there. In the context, what else? That's it. That is primarily what I do with all of my metal tracks. I don't know. Does that seem like a lot? A lot of those EQ tweaks I can probably do within the Helix. I just feel like I have a little more control, and I can visually see what I'm cutting for some reason. Like, I don't cut things with my eyes, but I mean, I'm listening for my cuts, high and low cuts, and my notching, but the ability to see exactly what I mean. What the hell am I talking about? The ability to see the waveform and what exactly it is I'm doing, I get a little more relief out of that. So I do some of this cutting inside of my DAW as opposed to doing it within the Helix. That's it. There's nothing you can't do in the Helix. I'm pretty sure there's a multi-band compressor, or the compressor you can even get similar results within the Helix doing this trick. And again, boosting the 8K and the 2K. Something I've done for quite a bit, and some people might say my guitar tone's shrill and harsh, but you can go to hell. I don't care. I like how it sounds. It sounds metal. It sounds aggressive.
All appropriate links down below in the description, including links to my music. And if you dig what I'm putting down, hit subscribe and follow along.
So that's it, guys. This is the next track I'm working on. I'm not sure if it's going to be an instrumental. I'm not sure if I'm going to get somebody to put some vocals to it. That's yet to be determined. I am going to use this track to also make a video kind of walking through my drums. I know I get a lot of questions for my drums, my Superior Drummer preset, and how I also kind of supplement my Superior Drummer patch or Superior Drummer preset. My Superior Drummer preset, I kind of, I add in some Get Good drums. So let's just listen to that. I'll give you a little teaser. Here's the drums. Now let's get rid of Get Good drums, and this is just Superior Drummer. I use it to bolster my kick and my snare. It's not doing a ton, but it's just kind of like reinforcing what Superior Drummer's already doing. I don't always do it, but that's not true. In all of my EP and all of my singles, I've done this. And it works for me. That's just how I do it. Anyway, tangent. We're going to go over that in another video. So what did we do? We kind of went over what I do on my mix bus. We went over what I do on my guitar rhythm channels, my tracks, and then what I do on my guitar rhythm bus. And then we kind of touched on what I'm doing with my bass to get that whole sound. So that's it, guys. Oh, man. So I was finishing up this video, guys, and I went to stop the recording, and it started recording as if I hadn't been recording that whole time. But luckily, it stopped at 29 minutes and 57 seconds, so I don't know if there's a 30-minute thing. I've never had that happen. Luckily, I had pretty much wrapped it up. I started rambling, so what got cut was me saying, thank you for watching. I appreciate all the support and all the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you, all that BS. If you're getting something out of it, it really does the channel some good. It really helps kind of, throw it into the algorithm and all that crap. Thank you for all the positive feedback. Thank you for all the constructive feedback. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the interaction and all the, I really get something out of being able to help people be creative. And I get a lot of messages saying that they're getting something out of what I'm doing. So that means the world to me. So thank you. If you haven't already, there's a link in the description to my Patreon. I have several different tiers, one of which I am doing monthly Helix tones. So if you have an HX Stomp, a Helix Rack, Helix LT, the Helix Floor, Helix Native, you can use these tones in any of those. And if I happen to do more than one a month, then you get those as well. But there are a few different tiers. You don't have to sign up for that tier. And to those of you who have already gone over and sacrificed some amount of money to me and the channel every month, thank you so much. It really, truly does mean the world. All the support that everybody gives me, it kind of blows me away. For me to be able to kind of sustain this music through your support and be able to help you guys and help the community kind of be creative, it really does blow me away. So it does mean the world. Your support means everything to me. Oh, and if you haven't heard, I am officially a Solar Guitars artist. Still kind of blows me away to be able to be part of the Solar team and represent Ola and his brand. I'm humbled and honored. I've followed Ola for what feels like an eternity. I remember when his channel was in its infancy, and to see him blow up to what he is today and have such a huge following and also still be so nice and humble and generous with his time. I mean, one can only strive to be, like somebody like him. So to be representing Solar Guitars I don't know that I'll ever truly be able to kind of express how excited I am for that. Thank you for all the kind words that have been sent my way since my announcing that. Always blown away how supportive and positive everybody is capable of being. All right, with all that being said, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. This is when I awkwardly stare at the camera so that I can fade to black at the end. Just stop it abruptly. Also, maybe not this view next time. It's a little close. Really kind of get a sense for how thick my old man glasses are. Fuck it.